Okay, Mitchell, thank you so much for taking the time to describe the company, go through it, and meet with me today. So I'm really trying to understand, I guess, what the business is doing, what you're trying to accomplish, and then more importantly, not more importantly, but also I want to understand like what brought you into this space.
Sure. Okay. So the quickest and easiest way to understand what we do is think of it this way. All blockchain projects have this major risk of catastrophic death, and that comes as a result of either malicious attacks on the network or just bugs, random errors, whatever, and this destroying trust and this leading to the theft of assets in the products. We prevent that by providing access to a global hacker base for that type of disclosure. Now, and I'm not gonna lie, it feels horrible. And we got to a certain point where we're like, okay, what is this core problem and how can it be fixed? What are the levers that we can push here? And we concluded that the only one that was really going to work at a massive scale, the only one that was going to be sustainable, the one that would drive the most value would be bug bounties. So that's what we did, even though it was hard.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out is when you do these bug bounties, the company itself is working with the whatever particular organization. You're saying, okay, let's set up a bug bounty. And how do you determine like the value, how much money people could make from various things? Because it's got to become like this weighing of, well, if the person exploits something, maybe they can earn way more money doing that. How do you balance that?
Sure. Okay, so there's two separate questions, right? One is how do we determine the rewards for a project? And the other then is, what's the weight or the balance of incentives in this game? And they're obviously very closely connected and interrelated, but they're not the same. First, on how we determine rewards, that's really a question of business value.
Okay.
And that means having that conversation with the project, with the team members, with the community, with the DAO, whoever is on the other end of the line, and asking them, okay, well, what is a critical vulnerability worth? If someone can drain these contracts tomorrow, can we put a hard value on that? Can we put a preventative value on that? If we could prevent that scenario, because it is overwhelmingly likely that you will have critical vulnerabilities. Nobody writes bug-free code.
That's right.
Okay? What is that worth to you under all these circumstances? That is going to lead to our reward criteria and usually a specific pricing mechanism, right? To make this as predictable and easy to calculate as possible. So that's one side. And believe me, that is a drawn out process, right? Going with your partners and saying, hey, look, just imagine the most horrible of horrible things would happen to you. What would it be worth for that not to happen? Right. This is a very stressful conversation and not having a particularly great time. You just got to work through it. So that's one side, this kind of education, this hand-holding, this partnership with our customers to work through those questions. The other side is the balance of incentives.
Right.
Okay? There's always going to be more money in theft. Just like you see in the modern world today, no matter where you come from, crime's a big business. And if you want to fudge the numbers a bit, there's a lot of opportunity, quote unquote, through that. Market size is big.
Yes.
But, at the end of the day, our challenge to them is, yes, you could steal that money, but that money needs to be heavily discounted by all the suffering that you're going to endure for doing that, all of the risk that you take, the stress, looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life, that someone is eventually going to come after you who doesn't necessarily have to be the project or even the law enforcement. It could be, of course, other criminal actors who realize you're a great target all of a sudden. So there's that. And on the flip side, when we're making our pitch to the white hat and the hacker community, we're saying, hey, look, yes, we're going to offer you great money too. We're going to offer you life-changing money. The difference between, say, 5 and 50 mil from the perspective of your day-to-day life, it really isn't that much.
Right.
You're not going to be able to spend the money either way, most likely. So don't worry about it. But in addition to that, we're going to help you comprehensively on these other areas of your life. So think your reputation as a security expert, the fame and adulation from the community, the respect for your work, the ability to say, yes, I am the best. And these guys have a major competitive streak.
They do.
And the facilitating of this money into a clean and legal environment. Hey, you can go and buy a house with this. Hey, you can go and buy your family something with this, as opposed to the whole mess that is the criminal world. So we're working on all these other angles in order to balance these incentives and make it more compelling. It will never outweigh the cash value of crime. But we're hoping that the aggregate package is just vastly more interesting.
So is that the pitch to the hackers? Like, that you'll actually sometimes give them a little bit of fame with this too, or is that just understood?
That is understood. It's not the pitch, it's obvious. We have made so many people's reputations doing this work. We have made them famous we have made them of extremely high demand. Like, their careers are done, their careers are set insofar as they want to do it. They have incredible pricing power in the market. They just have to decide they want to work. And of course they don't have to, because they earn millions of dollars. But we create that for them, right? And we do our best to do that, and it's long and complicated. And that is part of what draws people. They realize the community really will respect them and reward them and treat them well for engaging as a good actor. They're no longer forced to engage as a bad actor just to monetize their asset.
No, it makes total sense. So we're here at NEARCON. Which other chains, which other blockchains do you focus in on? Is it pretty much anything and everything, or?
Sure. Well, we're a multi-chain product,
okay,
right? We touch a whole bunch of different chains. Not only do we do that, we have L1s as customers, we have L2s as customers. Of course, we have a huge center point in the Ethereum ecosystem, but we also have this really strong breadth into all the major L2s. Okay. So Polygon, Optimism, Arbitrum, all of them are our customers, Fuel, many others they work with. We are also active in the Polkadot ecosystem. We're active with NEAR. We've paid out the largest bounties with the Aurora team, bless their souls. They're an excellent crew. And we're going to be expanding from there more into the Move ecosystem as well. Like, for us, the key is, where are the greatest security needs? Who is suffering from this the most? Who needs user protection? Right? Because the entirety of our business is about protecting people from getting robbed, plain and simple.
Absolutely.
And whatever that is, we congregate our efforts.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned Ethereum, so I got to bring it up. What are your feelings about the merge at this point?
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah?
I'm not going to lie.
Why is that?
Because it's been many years, right, that these
4 or 5 years,
conversations. I remember when they were first mentioned, it was like, whoa, it's going to take 5 years. Man, I don't even know if I'll be around in 5 years. That's an eternity away. And here we are. And I'm praying, I'm hoping that this all goes smoothly, because if it doesn't, we're all going to pay the cost.
Oh, big time.
I think it'll probably go well. I mean, these people have taken every care that they could, but you still have that trepidation, like when you're just before a race and you're about to kick off, you know you can do it, you know you've done the sprint, you know you've got the strength, but you have that trepidation like, is this really going to go well? And you can't know for sure. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so maybe back to the business and what you're working on, and thinking bigger picture. Like, if you were to consult with your younger you, or the men and women out there, the kids out there, they're starting to learn about coding and stuff like that. Is it Solidity? Is it Rust? Is it JavaScript? What should people really wrap their arms around or think about when they're starting to get in this space? Whether they want to help out one side or the other, white hat, hacking, all that stuff.
Sure. Okay. Are you curious, like, which particular language, or are you curious about which particular skill set?
Languages first.
Sure. Well, Solidity is the no-brainer, just because it has the most traction, and it also has all these gotchas, these foot guns. There's so many ways to get that wrong. And this makes your career as a security expert very fruitful, right? But Solidity is not the most important skill set for this kind of work. The most important skill set for this kind of work, and which very few people want to put in, right? They don't want to do the work, is to build up a comprehensive expertise in understanding how the underlying system works. Because under those conditions, it's most easy to find out how to break it.
Yeah.
And as an attacker, if you can build that mindset, you have that patience and that dedication to just step by step figure it all out and map it, you have such a vast advantage over the defenders. And it doesn't matter that they have 10 team members on their engineering team. It doesn't matter that they have 2-3 auditors. It doesn't matter that they've got monitoring solutions. You can afford to spend more time and energy at the chinks in the chain, and you only need one to move in. So that is the ultimate skill set, and it doesn't matter what language you work in. They're all kind of the same in regards to that. It's just understanding architecture and how to break things.
Fantastic. Okay, that's very helpful. Let's see. There's one other thing I was thinking about is a lot of cross-chain, a lot of bridges, things like that. Seems to be like that's the most scary part of what we're dealing with today. Am I wrong about that? Are there other areas people should be more concerned about?
I think you're wrong.
Okay.
Okay, and it's not that bridges aren't super important, right? Bridges are the central kind of point of failure for a lot of projects in this space, and they have all this extra collateral risk, right? If you've got, bridge A, and you're floating in all your USDC or USDT via that bridge, and that bridge goes down, then all that USDC, USDT is stranded on that chain, and bad things can happen, and that can wreck an entire system. Like, it can deleverage it right away. And so like there's like this obvious danger there, which is going to grow and grow and grow more with time, right? Just as you've seen this huge pressure for L1s to kind of be the monoliths, you're going to see bridges be the new monoliths of the space come 2-3 years hence. But today, I don't think that's our problem. Today, I think our major problem is just we are still experimenting with all these L1s and L2s, and we're lucky that there's been such a explosion of Cambrian explosion of activity here, but we don't know how secure all of them are.
Right.
And in my business, we deal with a lot of those L1s and L2s, and we fix them, and we find what's wrong, and the attack surface is way larger than people think or appreciate, because they're not the typical targets. It's much easier to steal money from a DeFi contract and run than it is to go after an L1 or L2, but the L1s and L2s are vastly more brittle.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, I know, taking a step back a little bit, when we talk about the L1s, one of the big things that comes up are there's still a lot of skeptics out there, like blockchain period, like they don't quite get it. I talk to people all day long about this, and people are just not there yet. So if they hear things like what you're describing, they're a little more concerned.
Rightly so.
And rightly so.
Rightly so.
So you see a time frame in the next several years that we're going to get to the point where people can be a lot more comfortable with trust in code as DAOs start to evolve, more NFT marketplaces, metaverse, all that stuff?
Sure, I think that's just time, right? And time really is on our side in this. Yes, this environment always favors the attackers, but we're building out the security stack of better and better tooling at every stage of the workflow. From the creation of code and co-piloting tools that help you create secure code from the get-go, to the QA process, to the audit process, to formal verification, to monitoring, and then to bug bounties over with us. Like, all these things are improving in parallel across the board. So, when I look out 3 years hence, I know that there's going to be a much greater kind of pool of attackers, but I also know that we're all going to have super sturdy walls. We're all going to have great designs for our castles, and that's immensely appealing. You can combine that with this increasing simplification, right? As people use more and more kind of Lindy protected contracts. The kind of contracts like ERC20 is a great example of this, right? That's rock solid as long as you don't mess with it too much, because it's
that's
been
right.
used hundreds of thousands of times.
Done that a few times. Yes.
Right? So if we keep heading that direction, we're going to get to the point where users can have a lot of trust. And then we have a final backstop that's also being born in this time, which is insurance.
Yeah.
So even when these negative events happening, we have the financial backstop that we can start to pull on. Now, crypto insurance is really not mature enough, but 3-4 years hence, we could see underwriting pools in the hundreds of millions and billions of dollars.
Okay.
And at that time, that's enough to backstop almost all kinds of catastrophic events. That is going to be, sure, then they're going to happen, they're still going to be bad, but you don't even have to necessarily reveal them to the public, provided that all the users are made whole, which is the most important part.
Great point. Oh, you're making me feel better about this now. So any last things that you think I should ask you about? What's important? What am I missing that we should talk about?
I think the most important thing is kind of the scary thing.
What's
right?
that?
So it's easy for me in the industry to see that the trajectory is very positive, right? And I see inside my business the kinds of bounties we're paying to the white hats, the incredible success they're having. Like, we've prevented the theft of tens and tens of billions of dollars, and that's just great. But that's coming against the backdrop of increasing strain, right? And from the perspective of educating other projects and ourselves as business people of various kinds and developers of various kinds, we really need to get this message across, which is the environment is becoming more adversarial. It is becoming more dangerous. There's more promise, the tooling is getting better, but at the end of the day, you have a much larger pool of potential malicious actors with more expertise. They have access to all the same tooling that you do. They have more time than you to spend on this. They're more desperate need as our global economy continues to go further down. And the international crime fighting networks that have existed to coordinate attacking various kinds of APTs or hacker groups, you could say, across the world, those are all breaking down now. Now that you're seeing China, Russia, Iran, Israel, the EU, and the USA all kind of move more aggressively against each other. And so it doesn't matter that you can find someone anymore. As long as they're under someone's aegis of protection, they're still going to operate.
Yeah, great point. So you've gone down this path. I will ask you one more question. Tornado Cash. What did you think about that? The whole thing and how it went down?
I mean, it's very spooky. It's very spooky. We have a particular faction in one country, which unfortunately is the world's largest market, that has decided to outlaw code. Fortunately, people are fighting back against that, because if they don't, you're going to see the vast majority of crypto and blockchain smart contracts eventually under attack.
Yeah.
You must understand that these factions there, they control, they dominate the world financial flows, right? The clearing houses, the insurance flows, the investments activities, the markets and exchanges, they dominate this infrastructure, and they're not going to let that go if they have a chance. And if they can get away with banning code that serves as a potential competitor, they're going to do that as far as they can.
Yeah.
So it's frightening from a kind of power grab perspective, and I hope that the American legal challenge to that effect takes force and people recognize that code is speech.
Yeah. I think there's 6 people that are going after that right now. No, it's wild because it's open source code that the government decided to seize and say you can't do this, and then arrest the person. I forgot where they were, but somewhere in Europe. Yeah, it's wild times. It's definitely an inflection point, I think, on a lot of things. But all right, well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right.